Welcome to part 4 of my review for Paper Mario. In the last episode, I left off not quite going chapter 6. In this one, we'll be doing just that. Chapter 6 has you entering the mysterious flower-filled realm of Flower Field, with a big old not Deku tree giving you the spiel of clearing out the cloudy sky, returning the sun, and helping out the residents of Flower Fields. The big tree marks the main hub of Flower Fields, as there are several paths to go down, some of which are blocked off and you need a specific item to get past. The big tree fellow tells you to first head due east to help one of the distressed residents. Along this path, be sure to hit one of the trees to get a colored berry, which is important in unlocking one of the gated areas. Once you have helped this particular flower folk, she will give you a magic bean. I wonder where this is going. Now, about those gated / blocked paths. At a few of the many entryways, there are flowers who will want a specific kind of berry to progress, and when you give them that berry, a general rule of thumb is that down this newly unlocked path is another berry that you will need to get to unlock one of the other paths. Each path generally also has a flower folk in need of some assistance, and when you help them, they will give you something that will help grow that magic bean you got, so you can eventually reach the clouds and challenge the boss. After helping a few of the locals, the last berry you get is a bubble berry for a bubble plan to get over some spikes. Going along the path, you will eventually meet the sun. Like, actually the sun, as an NPC. And thanks to a mysterious machine called the Puff Puff machine, making clouds, he cannot return to the sky. So you are tasked with destroying said machine. Shortly after, you are stopped by shades wearing Lakitu calling himself Spike. After a quick battle, said Lakitu wants to join Mario on his quest, and his real name being Lackluster. Lackluster is the final party member you obtain. His overworld ability lets you use him as transport and move slightly faster and travel over lava and spikes. So, in a weird way, he lets you travel over himself? Anyways, his battle abilities include Spiny Flip, where you have to move the cursor over an enemy and press A to hit them, Spiny Surge, which can hit all enemies on screen, Cloud 9, which can cause foes to occasionally miss attacks, and Hurricane, which can get rid of some enemies depending on how well you mash buttons. Now that all party members have been obtained, what are my thoughts on each? Let's start from the top. I will rank them as one would for the tier list, sort of. And remember, these are just my thoughts. Everyone is free to their own opinion. These are just mine. Let's start with Goombario. As much as part of me hates to say it, Goombario is just a worse version of Mario, as he doesn't even get any badge benefits. And if you get the Peekaboo badge that lets you see enemy HP, his tattle is all but useless. And he doesn't really have anything driving his character aside from just wanting to help and travel with Mario. For that, I would unfortunately put him in D tier, so to speak. Kooper is immediately more useful the moment you get him. In most situations, you would use Kooper over Goombario, the exception of which being airborne foes. Aside from them, you'll be using him in more puzzles and in more battles far more than Goombario. Even his driving force is better, if only slightly, wanting to be like his hero, Colorado, wanting to travel and explore worlds unknown. Character-wise, I would give him a C, only slightly better than Goombario. Battle-wise, I would give him a solid B. Bombette is the first female party you get, so that might count for something. But her only driving force was to escape the Cooper Bros jail, and that's about it. Where she makes up for lost points is battle capabilities. Being quite the powerhouse and clearing screens is Bombette's bread and butter. Character-wise, she gets a D. Battle-wise, her screen clearing capabilities are worth A alone. She gets high A, maybe even S in that category. Parakarry is a mailman. Full stop. His driving force is that since Mario is going to all these places and meeting all these people, he might as well do his duty as a mailman and deliver some letters while helping Mario. That, and Mario helped him in a jam, so he feels like he owes him somewhat. So weirdly, Parakarry feels like he has some depth to him, and his battle abilities ain't half bad either. I would give Parakarry a solid B all around. Bow is possibly my favorite character in this game, but that is a biased response. But does thinking critically match that? Battle-wise, I would say Bow is about middle of the road. C, maybe D, but probably C. If an enemy has any defense, Bow's normal attack will do nothing, as she can only deal 1 damage with it. Well, what about her character and her driving force? When tasked with meeting Bow, she is essentially testing you, see if you are truly capable, if you are in fact worthy in her eyes. When Tubba Blubba started eating her fellow boos, she realized, whether she liked it or not, that she could not beat him. She needed a strong ally to help her free her people and avenge those that have fallen. As Lady of the Manor, it was up to her to find and judge the one that decided to hear her case. All the other boos greatly respect her. In a way, you have a form of symbiotic relationship where without you, her fellow boos cannot be freed, and without her, you will not be able to progress. Being a boo means she's mischievous in nature, and to really grab your attention, pulls out her ace in the hole, revealing that she has come in possession of the captured Star Spirit. In this position, she holds all the power. Thanks to all these factors, I really think Bow makes an incredibly strong case for an S tier in terms of character. Watt has very little going for her character-wise. Like Bow before her, this may be an inverse. Her character / driving force is virtually non-existent. Possibly even worse than Goombario. Mostly just coming along because we saved her, and unfortunately because of that, she might be the only one that I would put in F tier character-wise. And I really like Watt. You only know that Watt has a mother if you go to the post office and read a letter to Watt. Otherwise, one might assume she's orphaned, which, dark, yes, but also somewhat compelling if that was the case. If she were to be given such a backstory, which I might add virtually none of your party members get any form of, there might have been a case here. If Watt had no home to return to, we would have reason to want to bring Watt along, as well as be basically her guardian. Yes, it is a very dark topic, but then Thousand Year Door happened, and Earthbound happened, and Kirby lore exists. I just wish there was more to this character than what was given. Where Watt shines, though, is in battle. Her defense-piercing normal attack is A or S on its own. Her other abilities are amazing as well. Shock and Mega Shock are great for crowd control, and Turbocharge gives Mario a +1 in attack which turns him into a monster if you're already stacking attack. Watt is great in literally any encounter. All these combined put her in S tier battle-wise. Sushi is an interesting case, as outside of puzzles, I only ever really use her in the chapter you get her, because her unique water moves are doing more damage against the fire enemies and the boss you fight. So chapter 5 is where Sushi does shine brightest. Once again, we have another because you help Sushi, she feels obliged to come along and help us. There is a bit more than that, as we get an idea that she's sort of a protective parental figure when watching over and worrying for the Yoshi children. So I'll at least give her a C in that regard. As for battle, Sushi is pretty good. I personally just don't use her all that much. Her water gun is generally good against most enemies, and is better against fiery ones. She can give Mario +1 defense with water block, and a screen clearing move in Tidal Wave. It's a solid A here. Finally, Like a Lester. Well, you actually fight him for one, and tries to put on a delinquent manner, or bad boy in simpler terms. Tells you that he doesn't want to fight you, and that he's being made to do this. Even after you've beaten, he asks that you should finish him off. And his girlfriend pleads with you not to hurt him and to forgive him. To which he asks Mario why, or what he's doing all this for. Great question, if you choose to take it seriously, as there tends to be a silly response. At which you can ask him, why Spike? Hilarity ensues. His driving force is that he wants to get stronger and return to his beloved, stronger Lakitu. That becomes a driving force for a different party member in the next game, in a fairly similar way as well. I guess Nintendo thought it was good enough to use twice. I only give Lucky Lester's character a C though. His battle abilities are where it's at though. He can hit any type of enemy with his normal attack. Spiny Surge does an okay amount to all foes on screen. And Hurricane can just get rid of some enemies. However, his best ability is Cloud 9. It works the same way that Water Block and Power Surge or Turbo Power does, by giving Mario a buff for a few turns. What this move does is that sometimes attacks just don't hit Mario, and it is ridiculous how good it is to just avoid damage altogether. Lucky Lester gets an S for that. Now, I should mention that these are just all my thoughts and opinions. If you disagree, more power to you. You'll get out of enjoyment of what you like. No one can say otherwise. So if you like a certain character more or less, that's great. Really. Everyone is entitled to their own thoughts and opinions. These are just mine. Now back to the plot. With Lucky Lester in tow, you can now go up and destroy the Puff machine. The sun can rise into the sky, and now you can go to the tree and plant your magic bean to climb into the clouds. Fight the boss, Huff and Puff. Now, I haven't really talked much about the bosses because mostly there really is not much to them besides figuring out how to best handle them in battle. The only ones you see and interact with before the boss encounter are the Koopa Bros, Bubba Blubba, and Bowser. But that one's a given. The rest you don't see until you fight them, therefore they have very little presence. And Peach segment. You've already heard my gripes with starting chapter 7 earlier. Go to Merlin to unlock the ability to get to Chapter 7, go underground, get new shoes, and go through a blue door and a frozen pipe. Bam! Chapter 7 begins. Your journey begins by exploring Silver City and coming upon Mayor Penguin's house to find him on the floor out cold and not responsive. When his wife walks in to check on him, she assumed it was murder, as we are the only ones that had entered the room. She blames us as the murderer, thus calling for the chief of police. A few ice puns later, we are tasked to prove our innocence in what could only be described as a penguin murder mystery. You do this by getting a key in a frozen lake and breaking and entering someone else's home. Are we sure we're not the bad guy? Well, in doing so, we find Herringway, who writes mystery novels. And if anyone can get to the bottom of this, it would be an expert. Upon return, we note that the mayor was holding a note that has Herringway's name on it. After a few accusations and objections, the mayor gets up wondering exactly what is going on with everyone, in shock that he is in fact alive. He explains that he was trying to reach a gift for Herringway when it conked him on the noggin and presumably passed out. He gives Herringway his gift, and you are permitted to leave Silver City and head for Starborn Valley. Once at Starborn Valley, you meet with Merlin's son, Merle, which he tells you about prophecies and such, but most importantly tells you that the Crystal Palace where the last Star Spirit is being held requires 2 items passed down from Starborn Valley and Silver City. The items being a scarf and a bucket that you give to some snowmen to open the path. Enter best music in the game. The pathway to the Crystal Palace and the Crystal Palace itself is where the bulk of this chapter lie, and these areas contain some of the best and coolest puzzle designs in the whole game, going through false walls and using and going through mirrors. However, there is one flaw, and that has to do with your party members. After a certain switch or trigger, sometimes, and by sometimes just Cooper and Bombette, will suddenly duplicate. The last of which being a joke, as none of the duplicates even look like Cooper. The problem lies with the first 2. If the duplicates do not have some form of dialogue or speech inflection, you literally would not be able to tell the difference. These moments really hit home the idea that your party members have essentially no character, that there is nothing distinguishable about them. And for characters that are one note like Cooper and Bombette, it really drives it home. And I hate that. You have been traveling alongside these characters, some longer than others, and with no context, no dialogue. If you asked me to pick which one is which, even for as many times that I have played this game, I don't think I could, aside from the last one. But that one is supposed to be a joke. It just hurts that even Bo, who I think is the best character, even has a chance of being reduced to indistinguishable. What credibility any of these characters had all of a sudden goes up in smoke. This chapter is one of the better chapters. It has fantastic puzzles and amazing music. But this one flaw drags it down for me. That part really gets me, is the Bombette one, where there are 5 of her. 2 of them at heart are star symbols in the dialogue box. One is always yelling, and the last seems shy and quiet. the real Bombette has no sort of affliction or oddity in her speech. And yet, that's the problem. The one that yells and the shy one are far more unique than the Bombette we are given. They at least have some form of wow factor. If the real Bombette had these inflictions, she would and could have been a more unique character, but as it stands, she isn't. And that's what really irks me. Chapter 7 is widely considered one of, if not the best chapter, and it is so close to that for me. It has incredible music, great puzzle ideas and mechanics, even the boss is great. It comes so close to being the perfect chapter. It just happens to fail in a regard I feel strongly about. Once the boss is beaten, the final Star Spirit obtained, all that's left is to take the fight to Bowser. But this is where I'll have to end things here. So, next time might, keyword, be one of the last parts, but we'll know when I've actually recorded it. So, next time, in the next part of my review for Paper Mario, we'll be going over the end bits. I will see you in the next one. Until then.